Part 1, The Old Night, October 31, 1777. The Hudson Valley, New York Colony. The Hudson Valley in the autumn of 1777 smelled of gunpowder, wet leaves, and fear. The war had already chewed the land raw. Redcoats and Hessians marched up and down the King's Highway. Continental scouts slipped through the woods like ghosts. Villages changed hands overnight. Loyalists hanged rebels from apple trees, and rebels burned the barns of loyalists. By October, the air itself felt brittle, as though one more scream would shatter the whole valley. North of Tarrytown, where the Picantico River bends like a hanged man's neck, lay a little Dutch settlement everyone simply called the Hollow. The older folk still spoke Low Dutch at home, still left milk out for the huisgeest and nailed horseshoes above doors to keep the nightmares out. They said the Hollow was asleep, bewitched by an old Indian sachem's dying curse, and that the mist rising off the river every dusk was the breath of drowned witches. On the last day of October 1777, the moon rose full and the color of fresh blood. The British Army had hired thousands of German mercenaries, soldiers from Hesse Castle, Brunswick, Ansbach, Bayreuth. Among them rode a captain of Jaegers everyone feared even more than the Redcoats. No one in the Hollow ever learned his true name. The Dutch children called him Der Kopfloos, the Headless One, long before he earned the title for real. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and rode a huge black stallion taken from a Virginia plantation. His uniform was forest green faced with black, the silver death's head on his shako gleaming like a bad omen. A jagged scar ran from his left ear to the corner of his mouth. Half that ear had been shot away at the Battle of White Plains the year before. They said he never removed his helmet, not even to sleep, and that when he laughed, which was rare, it sounded like a saw cutting bone. The Jaeger captain had a habit that chilled even his own men. After every skirmish, he would ride alone into the woods and return at dawn carrying something wrapped in a bloody cloak. No one dared ask what it was. Some whispered he collected the heads of rebels as trophies for the Landgrave back in Castle. Others swore he was in league with older, darker powers that the Germans had brought across the ocean in their sea chests. On All Hallows Eve, a ragged continental raiding party crossed the Hudson in whaleboats, hunting a payroll wagon rumored to be heading north under Hessian escort. Among the raiders was a young schoolmaster-turned-soldier from Connecticut, tall, gangly, superstitious Ichabod Crane. Ichabod had left his one-room schoolhouse in the Hollow only weeks earlier, lured by the promise of bounty money and the chance to impress a certain Katrina Van Tassel, the daughter of a wealthy Dutch farmer. He carried an old horse pistol almost as long as his arm and a heart full of borrowed courage. The ambush went wrong from the start. The payroll wagon never appeared. Instead, out of the fog galloped the Jaeger captain himself, alone, as if he had been waiting. What happened next was told and retold around dying fires for generations. The Hessian saber flashed once, twice. 2 Americans fell screaming. Ichabod, half mad with terror, leveled his heavy pistol across a stone wall and pulled the trigger. The night exploded in orange fire and thunder. When the smoke cleared, the Jaeger captain was still in the saddle, but the top of his neck ended in a ragged red ruin. The body swayed, spurted, then the huge black stallion bolted down the Albany Post Road toward the old Dutch church. For 20 terrible seconds, the headless rider stayed upright, cloak billowing like raven wings, blood fountaining into the moonlight. Then the corpse toppled. The stallion dragged it another 50 yards by one stirrup before the boot finally tore free. The body lay twitching in the dirt. The head, still in its battered silver-trimmed helmet, had been blown clean off and rolled into a pumpkin field beside the road, disappearing among the vines. The surviving Continentals fled south, Ichabod among them, pale as milk and babbling about ghosts. At dawn, a party of local loyalists found the corpse. They recognized the uniform and knew better than to leave a Hessian officer for the wolves. They dug a shallow grave at the crossroads just outside the walled churchyard, wrapped the body in its own cloak, and shoveled frozen earth over it. The head was never recovered. Some say crows took it. Others say the devil himself came in the shape of a black boar and carried it off snorting. 3 nights of hard frost passed. The war moved on. Then, on the next full moon, November 29, 1777, a farmer named Brower was riding home late from Sing Sing with a jug of cider in his saddlebag. Near the very spot where the Hessian fell, his horse stopped dead and would not budge. Out of the fog came the thunder of hooves, heavy, deliberate, impossibly fast. Brower looked up and saw a rider in a tattered green and black uniform, no head upon his shoulders, charging straight at him. In the crook of the rider's left arm rested a glowing jack-o'-lantern with a carved face that looked disturbingly like the missing Hessian helmet. The horseman raised a massive saber and let out a roar that was half battle cry, half the howl of the north wind. Brower's horse bolted. The farmer was found the next morning half dead from terror, white hair turned whiter still, babbling that the Headless Hessian had pursued him clear to the bridge over the Picantico and only vanished when the church bell tolled 1. Word spread like wildfire. The Galloping Hessian had returned not as a man but as something worse. Some said he rode every night the moon was full, searching for his lost head. Others claimed he hunted the living to replace what Ichabod Crane's pistol had taken. Farmers nailed extra horseshoes above their doors. Children were locked inside at dusk. Travelers took the long way around the hollow rather than risk the post road after sunset. Years became decades. The war ended. A new nation was born. Steam ferries replaced whaleboats, then railroads, then automobiles. The old Dutch church fell into ruin and was rebuilt twice. Ichabod Crane's name became a joke, then a story, then a book by a New York writer named Washington Irving who heard the tale from an old Revolutionary veteran and turned it into the legend of Sleepy Hollow. But the writer never stopped. Through the 1800s, stagecoach drivers reported seeing a huge black horse with a headless rider keeping perfect pace beside them on moonlit nights. In 1898, a bicyclist swore the Hessian chased him all the way from Tarrytown to Scarborough, hurling his flaming head like a comet. During Prohibition, rum runners claimed the ghost guarded the old smuggling roads and would decapitate anyone foolish enough to cross his path with contraband. World War II blackout drills, Cold War missile silo, 9/11, nothing stopped him. Every generation added its own sighting to the legend. A state trooper in 1973, whose dashcam caught a rider on horseback overtaking him at 90 miles an hour. A group of teenagers in 2019, whose Ring doorbell captured a headless silhouette standing motionless under the street lamp for exactly 13 seconds before dissolving into mist. The Galloping Hessian became Sleepy Hollow's dark heartbeat, proof that some wounds don't close, some debts don't die, and some riders never, ever stop looking for what was taken from them on a cold October night in 1777. And the moon still rises full, and the fog still crawls up from the Picantico like a living thing. And somewhere, out there in the dark between the headlights and the river, iron-shod hooves are already striking sparks from the old post road, waiting for the next traveler foolish enough to believe the past's. Part 2, tonight, December 23, 2025, Route 9, just north of Sleepy Hollow, NY. It's 11:47 p.m., 2 nights before Christmas. Snow is falling thick and silent on the modern 4-lane stretch of Route 9 where the old post road used to run. Most people are home streaming movies or wrapping last-minute gifts. Not Jake Brennan. Jake's a 34-year-old sound engineer from Brooklyn, driving a rented Jeep Wrangler up to his sister's place in Cold Spring. His girlfriend Mia, 29, true crime YouTuber with 1.2 million subscribers, is live streaming from the passenger seat, ring light clipped to the visor. "Guys, We are literally 5 minutes from Sleepy Hollow Cemetery right now. Mia whispers to her phone, voice dripping with theatrical spookiness. Chad is begging me to pull off and hunt for the Headless Horseman. Should we do it? Smash that like button if you think we're gonna die tonight. Jake rolls his eyes. We're not stopping, Mia. It's almost midnight, roads are getting bad, and I still have to edit that podcast tomorrow. Come on, 5 minutes. There's that old dirt turnoff by the church. People still see him there. Chat's going wild. Against every ounce of common sense, Jake flicks the blinker and takes the exit. The Jeep's tires crunch over fresh powder as the GPS loses bars and just spins. The headlights catch a rusted sign half buried in snow. Old Dutch Church, 1770. They park beside the low stone wall. Beyond it, the graveyard is a sea of white mounds and leaning stones. The church itself is dark, windows boarded up for winter. In the middle distance stands the silhouette of the old wooden bridge, the one Washington Irving made famous. Mia hops out, phone in hand. Temperature just dropped 10 degrees, chat. Look at my breath, it's like a horror filter for free. Jake follows, hands jammed in his parka. 5 minutes, then we're gone. Silence. Nothing but snow hitting snow, then they hear it. At first it sounds like wind in the pines, then like a horse blowing hard. Then unmistakable iron-shod hooves on frozen ground coming fast. Mia's ring light flickers. Jake, do you hear that? The fog rolls in from the river, thick as smoke. Out of it explodes a horse, massive, coal-black, eyes rolling white. The rider is dressed in an ancient black cloak shredded by centuries of wind. No head, just a ragged stump where a neck should be. In his left hand he carries a flaming jack-o'-lantern carved into a leering face. In his right, a cavalry saber longer than Mia is tall. He reins in 20 yards away. The horse paws the ground, steam jetting from its nostrils. The jack-o'-lantern lifts. Inside the fire, 2 eyes open, real eyes, furious and alive. A voice comes from the pumpkin, low and German accented like gravel soaked in rum. "W-O ist M-E-I-N-K-O-P-F." Mia screams and drops her phone. The screen cracks but keeps streaming. Jake grabs her arm. Back to the Jeep now, they sprint. The horseman spurs forward. Hoofbeats thunder behind them like artillery. Snow explodes under the horse's hooves. Jake yanks the driver door open, shoves Mia inside, dives after her. The engine roars to life. He slams it into drive and floors it. The Jeep fishtails, finds traction, rockets down the narrow road. In the rearview mirror, the horseman is gaining. 50 yards, 30. The flaming pumpkin lights up the inside of the car like hellfire. Mia is sobbing, clutching her seatbelt. He's right behind us. 100 mph on an icy back road. The speedometer needle trembles. The horseman raises the jack-o'-lantern high and hurls it. Time slows. The flaming head smashes through the back window in a shower of glass and sparks. It rolls across the rear seat, lands between them, teeth chattering, eyes locked on Jake. The voice again, now inside the car, intimate and ancient. "You took something that wasn't yours long ago." Jake glances at Mia in pure terror and sees her eyes have changed. They're no longer hazel. They're the cold iron gray of a Hessian officer's coat buttons. She smiles a smile that is not hers and whispers in perfect 18th century German, "Verzeih mir, mein Liebster." "Forgive me, my love." The headless rider pulls alongside the driver's window, matching 110 mph on a horse that has no right to exist. He reaches out with one gloved hand and gently, almost tenderly, touches the cracked glass. Then he's gone. The horse, the rider, the flaming pumpkin, all vanish like someone hit delete on reality. The Jeep is suddenly alone on the road, snow still falling, radio quietly playing, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." Mia blinks, confused. What just happened? Why is the back window smashed? Jake can't speak for a full minute. When he finally does, his voice is hoarse. "Some debts don't die, Mia. Some just wait for the right face to come back around." They drive the rest of the way in silence. The next morning, rangers find the Jeep's shattered rear window and a single antique Hessian saber lying in the snow beside the old Dutch church. No footprints, no hoofprints. Just the saber and half buried nearby, a perfectly preserved jack-o'-lantern, flame long gone cold. Inside the pumpkin, carved deep and fresh, are two words: debt paid. People say the Galloping Hessian hasn't been seen since that night. But if you're ever driving Route 9 after midnight, and your GPS glitches and tries to send you across the old bridge, no one uses any more. Keep driving. Some legends don't need another ending. They just need the right person to remember why they started.